Hi, and welcome to the Timeline Show. I'm Maya.
I'm Maeve.
I'm Brooke.
I'm Ethan.
And I'm Madison.
And today we'll be focusing on the key events of the 2000s.
Today we'll be focusing on 6 major topics that shaped us and the world as it is today.
These topics include the world, our nation, pop culture, sports, weather, and we'll even be honoring the person of the decade.
We'll even have highlights of memorable commercials from the 2000s.
Tune in to find out what this impactful decade contains.
First, we'll wind back to September 11, 2001. This tragedy was known as 9/11. Madison and I will now be discussing this horrific event. What can you tell us about this event, Madison?
The people that hijacked and crashed the planes on this day were Islamic terrorists from Saudi Arabia and other Arab nations.
And who were the terrorists?
The terrorist group was named Al-Qaeda and was led by Osama bin Laden.
Can you give us any information about Al-Qaeda?
Al-Qaeda first began to help Muslims fighting in the Soviet Union during the Afghanistan War in the 1980s. The theory of why they did this action was because they wanted to act in retaliation for American support of Israel.
Give us details about the plane crashes, then.
Okay. 4 planes were hijacked and crashed during 9/11 terrorist attacks. 2 of the planes were flown into the World Trade Center in New York City. Flight 11 crashed into floors 93 through 99 on the North Tower at 8:45 a.m. This killed everyone on board and hundreds inside the building. Then the second flight, Flight 175, hit 18 minutes after the first plane, which crashed into the South Tower on floors 75 through 85, killing everyone on board and hundreds inside the South Tower. Then, at 9:37 a.m., Flight 77 crashed into the western front of the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. It killed 59 on board and 125 military and civilians inside the building. At 9:59 a.m., the South Tower in the Trade Center collapses. The 4th and final plane of 9/11 crashed into a field located in Somerset County. The passengers and crew aboard Flight 93 had learned about the attacks in New York and Washington. They planned an attempt to retake the plane over. The hijackers then responded by crashing the plane into the field. It killed all 40 passengers and crew who were aboard the plane. Then the North Trade Center's North Tower collapsed exactly 102 minutes after being hit by Flight 11.
That's all the time we have today to talk about the sad event of 9/11. Thank you, Madison, for joining us and informing us about this event. Now we will have Maeve Cullen talk to Ethan about the 2002 Winter Olympics.
Hi, I'm Maeve Cullen here talking to Ethan about the 2002 Winter Olympics. Ethan, tell us about it.
The Winter Olympics, also known as the 19th Olympic Winter Games, began on February 8th, 2002 and ended on February 24th, 2002.
And where was this event located?
It was located in Salt Lake City, Utah, in the United States.
Tell us about the flame in the Olympics and who lit it.
During the Winter Olympics, the flame symbolizes the connection between the ancient and modern games. The Olympic flame was lit by the members of the 1980 gold-winning U.S. hockey team.
What are some more facts about these Olympics? What about the athletes who won?
These Olympics were the first time ever to have a president open the Winter Games. Janica Kozlik won 3 gold medals and a silver, which was the first time that Croatia had ever won a Winter Olympic medal. Yang Yang, a women's short track speed skater, led China to get its first and second Winter Olympic gold medals. Stephen Bradbury won his first gold for the Australia or any other country in the Southern Hemisphere in the Olympic Winter Games. Besides the fact that he was behind in the semifinals, Australia also won another gold medal by Alyssa Camplin in the women's aerial, which was the first ever gold medal from the Southern Hemisphere. The Canadian men's ice hockey team defeated the American team 5-2 to claim the gold medal. The Canadian women's team also defeated the American team 3-2. Norway was the first overall with 13 gold, 5 silver, and 7 bronze with a total of 225 medals. Germany was second overall with 12 gold, 6 silver, and 8 bronze with a total of 36 medals. And finally, third overall was the United States with 10 gold, 13 silver, and 11 bronze, with a total of 34 medals.
And why was this so significant?
Overall, the 2002 Olympic Winter Games was very significant because it had only the fifth state to host it in the United States.
That's all for today about the 2002 Winter Olympics. Now to Brooke McDermott talking about a space shuttle disaster. Hi Brooke, can you tell us when this terrible accident happened?
The space shuttle broke up when returning to Earth on February 1st, 2003.
Were there any
The
survivors?
disaster killed all 7 astronauts who were on board. The 7 astronauts who lost their lives were Kapala Chawla, Eileen Raymond, William C. McCool, Rick Husband, Laurel Clark, David M. Brown, Michael P. Anderson.
What happened afterwards?
While NASA investigated the catastrophe, they suspended all shuttle flights for more than 2 years. Supposedly, a large piece of foam fell from the shuttle's external tank and breached the spacecraft wing, according to the investigation board. NASA found out about the shuttle crashing when the Columbia was about to approach the runway. A mission controller received a call. The television network was showing a video of the space shuttle breaking up. Quickly after NASA got the word, they sent search and rescue teams to possible debris sites in Texas and Louisiana. That same day, the astronauts were declared lost. Each astronaut was awarded a Congressional Space Medal of Honor after their death. Kapana Chawla was the first woman of Indian descent to travel into outer space. Eileen Raymond was the only Israel astronaut. Unlike Chawla and Raymond, the rest of the crew were Americans. William McCool was not only an astronaut but many things, including a naval officer, an aviator, test pilot, and a nautical engineer. Laurel Clark was also not just an astronaut. She was a medical doctor and a Navy captain. Just like Clark, David Brown was also a United States Navy captain. Similar to McCool, Clark, and Brown, Michael Anderson was in the United States Air Force, along with being a NASA astronaut. Rick Husband has been to outer space twice, once as a pilot of the STS-96, and on his second journey he was commander of the STS-107.
Overall, the Space Shuttle Columbia disaster was a devastating event. The 7 astronauts who lost their lives made an impact. Now NASA will make sure this mistake will never happen again. And that's all for today about the devastating event. Now to Brooke McDermott interviewing Maya about the Iraq War.
Hello, I'm Brooke McDermott interviewing Maya Poznansky, who will be describing the Iraq War. Tell us, when did this war begin and why?
This war began on March 20th, 2003 and ended on December 18th, 2011. It all started when Iraq invaded Kuwait and began the Gulf War in the 90s. When Iraq lost the war, the country had settled for inspections by the United Nations. Iraq later refused to allow the inspectors into their country. When 9/11 occurred, the United States began to worry that the leader of Iraq, Saddam Hussein, was helping terrorists by making weapons of mass destruction.
Could you tell us more about the terrorists?
Most of the terrorists were well-educated college students. Some weren't even terrorists, just paid thugs.
What about these weapons you described?
The weapons Saddam Hussein supposedly helped to make were nuclear weapons, biological weapons, and chemical weapons.
Do you know how the war started?
On March 20th, 2003, George W. Bush ordered an invasion led by General Tommy Franks. This invasion is known as Operation Iraqi Freedom. Other countries, however, did not agree with the invasion of Iraq. Within a few weeks, they quickly had taken the capital city. They also captured Saddam Hussein and later executed him in 2006. Without Hussein, the country was chaos after occupying it for some time. After Hussein was executed, Islamic groups fought against each other and coalition countries in hopes to gain control over Iraq. The structure of the country needed to be rebuilt. Still, several years later, different groups fought for power against the new government. Forces led by the United States stayed in Iraq to keep order and help out the new government. However, the acts against rebellion continued. On December 18th, Cath War ended. An Islamic called ISIS, Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, gained power of some areas in Iraq. In 2014, the United States sent troops to Iraq to support the government. Overall, the Iraq War was chaotic, but an important occurrence in history because Iraq refused.
Okay, thank you, Maya, for joining us today and describing some details to this terrible war. Now to Madison to talk about an outstanding world record that was broken in the 2000s.
The incredible world record for the fastest marathon time for women is held by Paula Radcliffe. She beat this record on April 13, 2003, with a record of 2 hours, 15 minutes, and 25 seconds. An unbelievable fact is that she is over 2 minutes better than any other women's marathon time ever.
What marathons did she win in the 2000s?
She's a 6-time world champion of Marathon 2005, World Cross 2001 and 2002, World Half 2001, 2000, 2003. She is a 7-time Big City Marathon winner, London 3 times, New York 3 times, Chicago 1 time. This is what makes her the fastest female marathon of all time.
You're stuck on Band-Aid brand, his Band-Aid stuck on me. I'm stuck on Band-Aid brand, cause germs don't stick on me. Once they hold on tight, no matter what, one finger tells me.
Only Band-Aid brand plus antibiotic has antibiotic ointment directly on the pad. It delivers protection against infection in one simple step. Effective, convenient, and from the brand you trust.
I am stuck on Band-Aid, cause Band-Aid helps heal me.
What can you do with your fruit roll-up?
Fruit roll-up, the deliciously long snack.
Now let's go back to Ethan and Maeve to talk about a very sorrowful weather event that had happened.
There were many tragic weather phenomena in the 2000s, but no other storm, hurricane, blizzard, or tornado compares to Hurricane Katrina.
Hurricane Katrina started as a Category 3 hurricane striking the Gulf Coast in early morning of August 29, 2005. It contained winds from 100 to 140 miles per hour and stretched about 400 miles across.
That's approximately the distance between Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and New York City. The storm itself did a great deal of damage, but its aftermath was catastrophic.
Levee breaches led to massive flooding, and many people charged that the federal government was too slow to meet the needs of people affected by the storm. A levee breach is a failure of the protective wall around a body of water to prevent flooding.
By August 31st, 80% of New Orleans was flooded, with some parts under 15 feet of water. Katrina caused $108 billion in damage throughout the southern parts of the United States, with most occurring in Louisiana and Mississippi.
In the end, 1,833 people were killed by the massive hurricane. The major causes of these deaths were 40% drowning, 25% dying from trauma from injury, and 11% from heart conditions or complications, thus leaving the other 24% dying from other reasons. Most people who lived lost their homes and had to rebuild them.
Okay, that's all for the weather. Now I will talk about when the first iPhone was launched. Okay. The first iPhone was launched on June 29, 2007. Steve Jobs was the creator of it, along with also inventing iMac, iPod, and iPad. The iPhone company sold 270,000 the first week they got released. Every few years, a new iPhone comes out that is bigger and more advanced than the one before. Steve Jobs actually created the iPhone in his parents' garage. When the iPhone launched, it didn't have GPS, video recording, App Store, or even Touch ID. It first started with 16 original apps, such as text, calendar, photos, camera, YouTube, stocks, maps, weather clock, calculator, notes, settings, phone, mail, Safari, and iPod. Also, the iPhone did not even have an app store until version 2 came out. It really started booming when they merged with AT&T. It was perfect to have iPhones being sold, then providing the network to call and text for it. There are many differences between the first iPhone ever launched and the iPhones we have to this day. The size of the iPhone increased a lot over time, and also the colors have more options now. It is more preventable and sturdy today because it is made from aluminum. Back then, it was made of aluminum mixed with plastic. Plastic is more easily to break than aluminum would be compared to just having straight up aluminum. The iPhones have more advanced battery now. Therefore, you could only use the iPhones for 6 hours then, but now you can use it for up to 25 hours.
This world record was for the fastest MMA knockout all time. This record-breaking time was only 2 seconds. It happened on July 19, 2008. The person that set this record was Rohi Masuda, and he knocked out Takehiro Kuroshi. Rohi Masuda is a bantamweight fighter from Japan, and Takehiro Kuroshi is a rings fighter from Japan. This happened because Kuroshi thought that it would have been a good idea to charge directly at Masuda, right at the opening bell. He ended up running directly towards Masuda's hand, and then it all went down. Saying it all went down, we mean that Kuroshi went down after 2 seconds in the ring. That is when the fight was supposed to end, but people had other thoughts on their minds. They caused a brawl to break out on the ring. Too much madness in one night.
Now, Maya, will you talk about the despairing event that happened on November 26th through the 29th of 2008?
Okay. This disastrous event was called the Mumbai attacks. It happened at Mumbai or Bombay, Maharashtra, India. This was also referred to as India's 9/11, and it killed approximately 174 people in total. Along stand, they hijacked a fishing boat and killed 4 crew members. Once they got to Mumbai, the attacks still continued on for 60 hours as more deaths and shots were getting fired all around. There were 10 gunmen that were to have caused this and were most likely connected to the Pakistan terrorist organization. They were armed with weapons and hand grenades. They targeted civilians in any locations throughout Mumbai. Examples of these are theaters, hospitals, and cafes. Other locations were targeted, such as the Nariman House, the luxury hotels Bureau, Trident, and Taj Mahal Palace and Tower. These places were where they took hostages. The first hotel, the Nariman House, had 6 hostages and 2 gunmen killed on the 28th of November. Then the second hotel, Bureau Trident, they ended the siege at midday on the 28th. The third hotel, Taj Mahal Palace and Tower, the siege was also ended in the next morning. Over 300 people got injured and 9 of the 10 terrorists were killed. Mohammed Ajmal Amir Kasab was the survivor, but then was later jailed. Lots of trials were followed, and not long after, he was executed. That occurred because an unknown group who called itself Mujahideen Hyderabad Deccan claimed responsibility for the attacks in an email. The email was then proven false. It happened by the email being traced back to a computer in Pakistan. Some people were then led to believe that Al-Qaeda was involved, but Kasab proved evidence on the details on how they went to do this event. This theory was also proven false, that Al-Qaeda wasn't the group involved in the attacks.
Brooke and I will now reveal the person of the decade after the break.
missing a beat.
Go-gurt, the grab-and-go yogurt.
Excuse me?
Wow!
Oh, don't. What? What is this?
You don't eat it. Let's do it.
Yay.
The person we chose for the 2000 decade was Barack Obama. We specifically chose Obama because he was the president of our time period and made America better throughout his presidency. He was elected president on January 20th, 2009 and was the 44th president. Back to Madison for some background information on Barack Obama.
Obama was born on August 4th, 1961 in Honolulu, Hawaii, and went to become president of the Harvard Law Review, along with being a U.S. Senator representing Illinois. He was elected 44th president in office and the first African American commander-in-chief. His mother, Anne Dunham, was born on an Army base, Wichita, Kansas, during World War II. Her father then marched in General George Patton's army. After moving place to place, they eventually ended up in Hawaii.
Barack Obama's father, Barack Obama Sr., was born in Kenya. He grew up herding goats, and then he earned a scholarship to leave Kenya to go to college in Hawaii to pursue his dreams.
While studying at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, Obama Sr. met Anne Dunham and they married on February 2nd, 1961. Then Barack was born 6 months later. His parents eventually divorced and Obama was sent back to Hawaii to live with his grandparents. Obama excelled in basketball and graduated with academic honors in 1979. Soon after, his father died in a car crash when he was 21.
Then after he went to law school, he returned to Chicago and worked part-time at the Chicago Law School as a lecturer, then a professor. At the same time, he helped organize voters' registration during Bill Clinton's 1992 presidential campaign. He and Michelle later got married and had 2 daughters. One of the most important events that happened that led to Obama's presidency was when he published an autobiography called Dreams from My Father, a story of race and inheritance, in 1995.
Obama has done a lot to help America out in the long run. He expanded healthcare services and early childhood education programs for the poor. Also, by creating state-earned income tax for working poor. He even worked with law enforcement officials to help a member of death row inmates that were proven to be found innocent. Obama was extremely productive in his 100 days in office. He tried to improve relations with many countries and cut taxes for working families and small businesses.
Michael Jackson died on June 25th, 2009.
Jackson had a history of drug problems and he died from an overdose of propofol given to him by a doctor. Propofol is an injectable drug that helps you to relax and sleep before surgery. Some side effects include low blood pressure, pauses in breathing, and has effects on the heart.
Conrad Murray, a certified doctor, gave the drug to Jackson and was charged with involuntary manslaughter. He was sentenced to 4 years in prison and served 2 of the 4 years.
When Jackson's autopsy report came back, it was reported that he had multiple other drugs in his system. Some included lorazepam, sleeping aid, and muscle relaxant, midazolam, which is to treat seizures, Valium helps to treat anxiety and helps with sleep, lidocaine, a numbing agent for dentists, and edarine, an appetite suppressant.
While most believed he overdosed, his daughter, Paris Jackson, believes he was intentionally murdered. She claimed he dropped hints that some people were out to get him, and claimed he said one day someone was going to kill him.
Our last topic that we will be focusing on is another amazing world record that was broken in 2009. Maeve will be providing information about the topic.
Specifically, on August 16, 2009, Usain Bolt beat the world record for the fastest 100-meter dash for men. His record is 9.58 seconds, and he is a Jamaican sprinter that typically competes in the World Athletic Championship. He was the record holder before he beat his own record of 9.69 seconds, his old time by 11 hundredths of a second. He obviously won the gold for Jamaica. He finished his career in 2017 by placing second in the 100-meter dash.
That's all we have for this week on 2000's Decade.
We hope you enjoyed our segment.
And we'll see you next time on the Timeline Show. Out!
So now we are going to be breaking some crazy world records. So now we will be doing the fastest MMA knockout, which was 2 seconds, but we will be breaking that right now. And on this side we have Roihi Masuda, and on this side we have Takahiro Kurushi. Are you ready? Are you ready? Yes. Go. Okay, guys. So we got 0.40 seconds on the clock, and yeah, world record broken today. Yeah! Now we're gonna be trying to break the women's fastest marathon time, and here we have Madison trying to break it, but it's held currently now by Paula Radcliffe, and her time was 2 hours, 15 minutes, and 25 seconds. So Maddie will be trying to break it right now.
On your mark, get set, go! Oh, she's coming around the straight.
It's literally
Never mind, it's been a straight. Yay!
That was loud. 797. Okay, guys, so this is the record. As you can see, she obviously has beat the record.
1 hour, 3 minutes.
Good job, Matt. As you can see, she's about to throw up right now. That's what.
Mark, get set, go.
As you can see, Ethan, Maeve, and Brooke beat the record, and I sadly did not. But
Sorry. Come on.
My bad! I'm sorry! I'm sorry!
We have bloopers for